What is going on, everybody? My name is John Solo, and today we are going to settle a hotly debated topic once and for all. Does Boba Fett suck? This is something Star Wars fans have argued about as long as The Mandalorian has been around. Despite having only 4 lines of dialogue, not counting the scream as he falls to his death, and doing nothing extraordinary outside of disguising himself as a piece of space garbage, Boba made quite an impact on the Star Wars community by simply standing around doing nothing in some of the most badass armor imaginable. I'll admit, I've always been kind of a Boba Fett fanboy. I'm not proud of it, but it's true. However, the time in my life has come where I need to be truly honest with myself. I need to challenge myself and make sure my opinions are based on fact and not just whatever is most comfortable and satisfying to believe. So after sitting down and doing some extensive research on the infamous Mandalorian, I think I found a conclusion that most of you will actually be satisfied with. So without further ado, let's dive into this. It's time to answer the age-old question, does Boba Fett suck? A common argument you'll hear from Boba Fett haters is that he didn't do anything in the original trilogy to earn the hype around his character. He's successful in his pursuit of Han Solo and manages to deliver him to Jabba encased in carbonite, but that's pretty much where the success stops. We have plenty of moments where he's standing around looking cool, but you'll notice whenever the action goes down, he's wildly unsuccessful. So unsuccessful, we actually don't even get to see him shoot anybody. He misses Luke on Cloud City, and on Tatooine, his blaster rifle is chopped by Luke's lightsaber. He pops a few shots off his wrist cannon, but he misses those too, and ends up being knocked into the Sarlacc pit by a blind Han Solo. So outside of his tracking skills and his ability to stand ominously near powerful people, Fett isn't really giving us much to work with in the OT. I do think he deserves some credit for standing up to Darth Vader on Cloud City and voicing his concerns if Han dies, but I don't think we've seen enough to justify the official Star Wars website calling him one of the most feared bounty hunters in the galaxy. So let's turn our attention to his appearances in the Clone Wars animated series. If you haven't seen it yet, Boba actually shows up in quite a few episodes and, believe it or not, even pulls off a scheme or two. For example, in a quest for vengeance against Mace Windu, the Jedi who killed his father, Boba's able to infiltrate the clone cadets, sabotage the reactor core of a Republic vessel, and jettison himself to safety in an escape pod. You gotta admit, that's pretty impressive, especially for someone who's like 13 years old. Of course, the mission ended up failing in the end. Not only did Windu survive, but Boba and Bossk were both arrested and sent to prison, so you can't exactly call that one a win. Still, we should give credit where it's due. Not only did he come this close to assassinating his target, a Jedi Master, not just once, but twice, he survived for months in a high-security prison on Coruscant, again as a 13-year-old. Interestingly, the next mission of Boba's we get to see ends in a similar way. After setting up a syndicate of bounty hunters on Tatooine, his crew was hired to escort some high-priority cargo to its destination. We see him pull off some impressive combat maneuvers, but then things take a turn for the worse. After discovering the cargo they were escorting was actually a young girl on her way to marry an alien dictator against her will, Asajj Ventress wanted to set her free. Ventress and Boba got into an argument about this, and that argument ended with Boba being delivered to the dictator and another mission failed. So far, it's 0-2 for Mr. Fett, and spoiler alert, things don't get much better from here. In the Dark Disciple novel, he fails a mission that Ventress actually hires him for, but to his credit, he loses a duel against Count Dooku, who is a Sith Lord. Fast forward a little bit, and now we're at his first mission in the Galactic Civil War. He's hired by Vader to hunt down the rebel pilot who blew up the Death Star, capture him, and bring him back. This happens in the Skywalker Strikes comic, and it's here that Fett shows how dangerous and menacing he can really be. He fights this freak, breaks 3 of his arms and rips off another, kills a moisture farmer in cold blood after getting him to give up Luke's name, tracks Luke to Obi-Wan's old house, and even gets the drop on him with a flash grenade. Things are going great so far, but unfortunately for Fett, that flash grenade turned Luke Skywalker into his ultimate weakness, a blind guy wielding a lightsaber. He has some trouble taking Luke down, but he eventually does. Then suddenly, right before he's about to incapacitate Luke, a spirit from the beyond that we can only assume is the ghost of Obi-Wan Kenobi or Luke getting really lucky with his fledgling force abilities, intervenes and throws a metal box at the bounty hunter's head, KOs him, and Luke is able to escape. We have just gone over every single mission of Boba Fett's before The Empire Strikes Back, and as you can see, he doesn't have the most impressive track record. He later tracks down the Millennium Falcon for Darth Vader, delivers Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt, and that's it. Even if you want to give him half credit for finding out Luke's name for Vader, even though the mission technically called for the capture and delivery of him, his failures outnumber his successes. is. At this point, I would normally say I've reached my conclusion, and you can probably guess what that would be. However, before I go any further, I want to address the people planning on commenting that the old expanded universe made Boba Fett more worthy of his fearsome reputation. I knew this would be a point of contention, so I actually decided to look into it, and what I found might surprise you. Fett absolutely does have several more badass moments in Legends. He takes on a Jedi named Ram Koda in a one-on-one duel and only loses after a third party gets involved. He faces off against Vader, and despite his combat abilities being far inferior, he resists a Force mind trick and escapes with his life, which is more than most of Vader's opponents can say. And of course I have to mention that in Legends he escapes the Sarlacc pit, making his pathetic death a lot less relevant. The problem with these impressive moments and the dozens of others I didn't mention, whether it's tracking down an assassin or kidnapping a bounty, is that no matter how impressive they are, just like in canon, Fett always manages to lose miserably in the end. He'll come this close to delivering his target just for his ship to be boarded by the enemy at the last second and forced into negotiating for his life. I don't know about you, but that's not exactly something I would look for when hiring a bounty hunter. So whether we're talking about canon or Legends, my opinion on Boba Fett pretty much stays the same. He's an excellent tracker, a skilled combatant, and not someone the average person would want on their bad side, but when it comes to actually getting the job done, Fett is not the guy you want. And it's for that reason that I'm gonna say he kinda sucks. At least that's how I see it. I do want to briefly mention though that Fett really has the cards stacked against him. Looking at Star Wars from an audience perspective, the reason that Fett is always on the losing team is because he's a villain. Boba Fett is a fan favorite, so understandably, writers like to include him in their works. The problem is that he's always going against the protagonist of whatever material he's featured in, whether it's a book, movie, animated series, whatever. So unless there's a cliffhanger, like at the end of episode 5, or he's featured as the good guy in a story, something that hasn't yet happened in the new canon, Fett is pretty much guaranteed to stay the loser in the end. It's honestly kind of sad, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney eventually makes it official that he escaped the Sarlacc pit in the new canon. According to the official Star Wars historian at Lucasfilm, George was pretty clear on the fact that he did, so fingers crossed. I say it's about time that we wrap this up, but first I want to know, what are your opinions on Boba Fett? Do you agree with what I said, or am I being a little too harsh? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this video. It supports the channel a whole lot, and it lets me know you care. Subscribe for weekly Star Wars content, and share this with a friend who loves Star Wars as much as you do. Or if none of your friends love Star Wars as much as you do, just share it with every single person you know. Please. Also, I just decided that if we can get this video to 1,000 likes by the end of the week, I'll make an extra Star Wars video next week. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is John Solo. May the Force be with you, and remember, John shot first.